You started learning English, and somewhere along the way, something happened. Maybe you got busy. Maybe you felt stuck. Maybe you looked at a native speaker and thought, I will never sound like that. And quietly, slowly, you stopped. Not all at once, just a little every day. Until one day you realized you hadn't practiced in weeks, maybe months. And that feeling, that quiet disappointment in yourself, that's exactly what we're talking about today.
It is so good to see you here again, our amazing students. Seriously, the fact that you clicked play today, that already means something. You're at Easy English Space, the place where we learn English like real humans, not like robots reading a textbook. I'm Julia.
And I'm Henry. And today we're talking about something really important. Not grammar, not vocabulary lists. We're talking about how to stay positive on your English journey, how to keep going, how to actually reach fluency without burning out, without giving up, without losing your mind.
Yes, without losing your mind. That's the key part.
That is genuinely the hardest part for most people.
Okay, so Henry, can I ask you something right away? Because I think our listeners need to hear this from the start.
Sure, go ahead.
Do you think most people fail at learning English because they're not smart enough, or because they don't have time, or because it's something else?
That's a good question. And honestly, I think it's something else. I think most people quit English because they lose the feeling of why they started. And without that feeling, even 10 minutes of practice feels like torture.
Yes. Oh, that is so true. Like, think about when you first started learning English. There was probably a moment, right? A movie you loved, a song, a dream of traveling. Maybe you wanted to talk to someone specific. There was a spark.
There was always a spark.
And then what happens? Life happens. You get tired, you make mistakes, someone laughs at your pronunciation, or worse, nobody corrects you and you never improve, and the spark gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, smaller and smaller until one day you're just staring at a vocabulary app at midnight feeling absolutely nothing.
Okay, that's painfully specific, Henry.
It happened to me with Spanish. I'm not proud of it.
Wait, really? You quit Spanish?
I didn't quit, I just took a very long break. A 2-year break.
That's quitting, Henry.
That's a sabbatical, Julia.
Okay. But listeners, this is actually really important. Henry just admitted something that most teachers never admit. Even people who teach languages, even people who love languages, they struggle too. They lose motivation too. And that's okay. That's normal. That's human.
It is, and I think the first step to staying positive on your English journey is accepting that. Accepting that motivation comes and goes. It's not a straight line. It's more like a heart monitor. Up, down, up, down. And the goal isn't to always feel motivated. The goal is to keep moving even when you don't.
Ooh, I love that. Say that again, Henry. Slower.
The goal isn't to always feel motivated. The goal is to keep moving even when you don't.
Listeners, can you say that with us? Come on, out loud. Say it with me. Keep moving even when I don't feel motivated. Say it, seriously, out loud, right now. It doesn't matter if your pronunciation isn't perfect. Just say it.
Because saying something out loud makes it real. That's actually science. When you verbalize a thought, your brain takes it more seriously.
Okay, so let's talk about the real stuff, the practical things. Because I know some of our listeners right now are thinking, okay, great, very inspiring, but what do I actually do, right?
Right. So let's start with something really simple, something I call the one-sentence rule.
Ooh, tell me about this.
Every day, every single day, you say one sentence in English. Just one. It can be anything. Today, I'm tired. I had coffee this morning. The weather is nice. One sentence. That's it. That's your entire English practice for the day if that's all you can do.
That sounds almost too easy.
That's the point, because here's what most people do. They think, I need 1 hour to study English, and I don't have 1 hour, so I won't study at all. And that's the trap. That zero or everything thinking. It destroys more language learners than anything else.
Zero or everything. I actually really relate to that. I used to do that with exercise too. Like, if I couldn't go to the gym for a full hour, I'd just not go. And then I wouldn't go for 3 weeks, and then I'd feel guilty, and then the guilt made it even harder to start again.
Exactly. And the same cycle happens with English. You miss one day, you feel bad. You feel bad, you miss another day. You miss another day, now you feel terrible. And suddenly, 2 weeks have passed, and you feel like you have to start completely from zero again.
But you don't have to start from zero.
You never start from zero. Your brain remembers. Even when it feels like it forgot, it didn't. The progress is still there. It's just resting.
I like that. It's resting, not gone. Listeners, quick question for you, and write this in the comments because I really want to know. How long was your longest break from English? A week? A month? Longer? No judgment. Just tell us, because I promise you, you are not alone.
And while you're thinking about that, let me tell you a short story, a real one. I had a student, I'll call her Maria, and Maria had been learning English for 4 years. 4 years, and she was good, conversational, confident. And then she got a new job, a very stressful job, and she stopped practicing for about 8 months.
8 months.
8 months. And when she came back, she was convinced she had lost everything. She sat down in our first session and she was almost in tears. She said, "Henry, I forgot everything. I feel like a beginner again."
Oh.
And I said, "Okay, let's just talk. Tell me about your new job." And she started talking. And yes, she was slower than before. Yes, she was searching for words, but she was doing it. The English was still there. It had just been sleeping.
And that is such a beautiful way to think about it. Your English doesn't disappear. It sleeps, and you wake it up again.
She cried a little at the end of that session. She said, "I thought I had wasted 4 years," and she hadn't, not even close.
Okay, I'm a little emotional now. But seriously, if you're listening right now and you feel like Maria, like you've lost everything, like you've wasted time, I want you to hear this. You haven't. The time you put in is still in you. It doesn't just vanish.
It doesn't. And that brings me to the second simple technique for staying positive. And this one is really underrated. It's called looking back.
Oh, I love this one.
Most learners only look forward. They see how far they have to go. Native speakers, fast conversations, complex vocabulary, and they feel small. They feel behind. But very few people stop and look back. Look at where you started. Look at what you couldn't do a year ago that you can do today.
This is so true. I remember when I first started teaching, I had a student who could barely say, "Hello, my name is." That was it. That was his whole English. And about a year later, he was telling me about his weekend in full sentences. Not perfect sentences, but real ones. And he didn't even notice how far he'd come. He was still focused on the mistakes.
We're wired to focus on what's wrong. It's a survival thing. But for language learning, it's actually harmful. You have to train yourself to celebrate the small wins.
So here's a tiny homework idea, and we'll give a proper homework at the end, don't worry. But just think about this. Think of one English thing you couldn't do 6 months ago that you can do today, even something tiny. Can you think of one?
Write it in the comments. Seriously, 6 months ago I couldn't blank. Now I can blank. That's it. Fill in the blank. Because when you write it down, you see it. And when you see it, you believe it.
Okay, Henry, I want to ask you something a little different now. Because we talk a lot about mindset and motivation, and that's important. But what about the actual speaking part? Because I think a lot of our listeners are scared to speak, like really scared.
Oh, definitely. That's probably the biggest wall, the speaking wall.
Why is it so scary, do you think?
Because speaking is exposed. When you write, you can think, edit, delete, try again. When you speak, it's just out there, in the air, no takebacks. And if you make a mistake, someone hears it immediately. And that feels vulnerable, really vulnerable.
And for a lot of learners, especially adults, making a mistake feels like being stupid, even when it's not. Even when every single person who ever learned a language made exactly the same mistakes.
Every single one.
So what's your advice for that? For the fear of speaking?
Well, my honest advice is a little counterintuitive. Most people think they need to wait until their English is good enough before they start speaking. They think, I'll speak when I'm ready. But that's backwards. You get ready by speaking. The speaking is the training.
Say that again?
You don't speak when you're ready. You get ready by speaking.
Listeners, repeat that with us. Come on, say it. I get ready by speaking. Say it out loud. Say it with confidence. Even if your voice is a little shaky. Even if you're alone in your room, say it. I get ready by speaking.
Because here's the truth. There's no magical level of English where suddenly speaking feels easy and comfortable. That moment never comes on its own. It comes from doing it over and over until your brain stops treating it like a danger and starts treating it like normal.
Your brain is so dramatic.
It really is. It's very dramatic. It treats a slightly mispronounced word like a life or death situation. Very unhelpful.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Because I don't want to just be all, you can do it, just believe in yourself. That's not enough. Let's talk about one very simple daily technique that actually works for speaking practice. Something anyone can do, even if they live alone, even if they have nobody to practice with.
Shadow talking.
Yes. Oh, I love shadow talking. Henry, explain this because you explain it better than I do.
Okay, so shadow talking is simple. You find something in English, a short video, a podcast, a TV scene, whatever, and you listen, and then you repeat what you hear. Not translate, not think, just hear and repeat, like a shadow following the original voice.
And the magic of this is that you're training your mouth, not just your brain, because your mouth actually needs practice. Your lips, your tongue, the sounds, they need exercise, just like muscles.
And the beautiful thing about shadow talking is there's no pressure. Nobody is grading you. Nobody is listening. It's just you and the audio. And every single time you do it, your mouth gets a little more comfortable with English sounds.
I want to give listeners a tiny practice right now. Henry, say something simple, and our listeners are going to shadow it.
Okay, here we go. I'll say it slowly. Ready? Every day, I practice a little. And every day, I get a little better.
Now say it with us. Every day, I practice a little. And every day, I get a little better. Come on, say it. One more time. Every day, I practice a little. And every day, I get a little better. Yes, that's it. That's shadow talking. That's simple.
And if you do that for just 5 to 10 minutes a day, in a few months, your mouth will feel completely different when speaking English.
Okay, I want to talk about one more thing before we start wrapping up, because I think it's really underrated. And that's the emotional side of learning English, because it's not just a skill. For a lot of people, learning English is tied to a dream, a future they want. And when the progress feels slow, that dream starts to feel far away. And that's heavy. That's really heavy.
Yeah, I've seen that. Students who are learning English to get a better job, to travel, to connect with family in another country, to give their kids a better life. The stakes are really high for a lot of people. It's not just a hobby.
And I think sometimes we as teachers forget that. We talk about vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation, and we forget that for some learners, this language is a door to a whole different life. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself every time you open a textbook.
So if that's you, if English feels really heavy right now, if the dream feels really far, I just want to say it's okay to put the weight down for a second. You don't have to carry the whole dream every time you practice. Sometimes you just practice to practice, just for today, just for this moment.
Just for today. I really like that. Because fluency isn't one big moment. It's thousands of small moments added together. And every single small moment counts. Even the messy ones. Even the ones where you forgot a word or said something wrong. They all count.
They all count.
Okay, let's talk about something a little lighter for a second, because we've been deep.
We got very philosophical.
We did, we went there. But I want to ask you, Henry, what's a funny English mistake you made early on, or a funny story from a student?
Oh, okay. So I had a student once who wanted to ask his coworker, "Can you lend me your pen?" And he got nervous and instead said, "Can I borrow your body?"
No.
He meant to say, "Can I borrow your pen?" but he lost the word pen and somehow body came out.
Oh no! And what did the coworker say?
She just stared at him for a very long time in silence.
Oh, that is terrible. That is so bad. But also, you know what? That student probably never forgot the word pen again in his life.
He absolutely never forgot it. He said it was burned into his memory forever.
And that's actually a real thing. Emotional memories stick, even embarrassing ones. Especially embarrassing ones. So if you've ever said something awkward in English, congratulations. You probably remember exactly what you were trying to say, and you'll never forget the right word again.
That's one way to look at it.
It's the optimistic view, which is very on brand for today's episode.
Very true. All right, listeners, we're getting close to the end, and I want to make sure we give you something real to take away. Not just good feelings, though those are nice too, but actual things you can do starting today.
So let's do a quick summary of the simple techniques we talked about today. First, the one-sentence rule. Every day, one sentence in English. That's your minimum, just one.
Second, look back. Notice how far you've come. Don't only look at how far you have to go.
Third, shadow talk. Find any English audio and repeat what you hear, 5 to 10 minutes a day. Train your mouth, not just your brain.
And fourth, and this is the big one, stop waiting until you're ready. You get ready by speaking. The speaking is the training.
Those 4 things. Simple, doable, real.
And if you want more techniques and more support, we're here every week. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, just one little click, and you'll never miss an episode of Easy English Space. We'd really love to have you with us every time.
Okay, homework time. And this is very low pressure, I promise. For today's homework, I want you to write 2 things in the comments below. First, tell us, what is your biggest challenge with English speaking right now? Is it pronunciation, finding words, being nervous? Tell us. Second, write one thing you couldn't do in English before that you can do now, even something tiny. We want to celebrate with you.
And honestly, reading the comments is one of my favorite parts of this whole thing, because you all are so real and so honest, and it reminds me why this matters.
It really does. Okay, one last thing before we go, and this is actually a little exciting. Next episode, we're going to talk about a Japanese technique. Yes, a Japanese technique for English speaking practice that almost nobody outside Japan knows about. And it's honestly fascinating. Like, when I first heard about it, I thought, why isn't everyone doing this? It's that good.
It's going to change how you think about practice.
So come back for that. We'll see you next time at Easy English Space. And until then, keep going, even on the hard days, especially on the hard days.
You've got this. Really.
Bye for now.
Take care, everyone.